Islandcat, you know, when we were talking to him about playing the game and him being a caster as well as competing over in China, where he made top 8 at the recent. I get where you're coming from on that one.
Pretty good.
Yeah, he is pretty good.
But the reason behind there is he's a caster, he's a prominent caster in the Chinese scene.
Still backstage talking about odd Warlock.
He's been known for the Q block, played it in playoffs, loves those combo styles of decks, and is sticking true to that style and bringing combo styles of decks all the way through to the fall championship. And unfortunately for him, first matchup gets matched up against a player that decided to go full aggro.
Yeah.
So Islandcat, of course, banning away the Druid. Malagos Togwaggle Druid, Spreading Plague wrecks his lineup. The Armor Gain would wreck the Tempo Mage. And then, of course, expecting the Druid ban, Renmen kind of forced to ban the Mage because it just has good matchups against all 3 of the remaining decks if he's expecting a Druid ban.
Yeah, the one caveat I want to talk about is you mentioned Islandcat and full aggro, and then you see Malagos Druid in there. Malagos Druid is just a very well-rounded deck. Yeah. It plays from a lot of different angles, and it's just strong at it. You know, to not see Druid in a lineup, I'd be quite surprised. So that is like the one exception to the rule, but Malagos Druid's one of those decks that's quite capable of just beating anything.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't call it like super favored matchups, but I don't really think it has many super unfavored matchups either.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that point. But first matchup's going to be the Odd Rogue for Islandcat versus the Death Rattle Hunter for Renmen. This is probably the deck that's the best positioned to take a win against, you know, the spread of decks that Islandcat's bringing. Maybe Questroke just because it's so powerful that sometimes Questroke can just beat just about anything. But, you know, it's going to be tough matchups for Renmen just across the board.
There's 2 things I want to talk about here. And the first one is how I usually talk about the deck I'm worried about for a player. I'm not really going to do that for Renmen because I'm worried about all 3 of the decks in this one. And you saw it in his piece. He said he puts himself at about a 30% chance to win the match. You know, very unfavored if that number is even close to accurate. The second thing I want to talk about is I was watching Purple's stream last night as he was going over some of the games, and Rage was talking about how he feels that Questrogue is favored versus Zoo Warlock. Not a big favored, but favored.
Yeah, you have to play it at a pretty high level. Questrogue, while
also just a deck.
Against some matchups, Questrogue can beat it if you do just about anything.
Yeah.
But against the faster matchups, you really have to utilize every resource to the maximum potential, because one wrong move, one extra point of damage taken, or one missed sequence of bouncing back a minion could be the difference between winning and losing. So.
Yeah, I have found that the life expenditure and mana expenditure has been like the 2 main factors for my personal success in Questrogue. If I mismanage a single point of mana, 4 turns down the road, I go, oh, man, if I'd have spent that mana differently, I might have won this game.
Yeah.
And that's always like one of those weird feelings that you end up getting from that deck. But in this matchup, Renmen, he does see his opponent off to quite a slow start, and there's no Hench Clan Thug for Islandcat, which I think is one of the key cards in the deck to snowballing the game away against Hunter. But he does have Vile Spine Slayer, so the main mode of defense for Renmen, which is going to be why can't I remember the name? Witchwood Grizzly. My mind just went blank. The Grizzly is going to get, you know, shot down at some point by a Vile Spine Slayer. So drawing the Vicious Fledgling here is quite big because Renmen has no answer for it right now. And that's really the first test that Renmen's going to have to pass.
Yeah. I was going to say Islandcat was off to a very slow start, as you mentioned, but picking up a 3-drop that actually pressures a big deal. And Renmen actually thought about coin out the Devilsaur Egg, but with this hand, it does nothing. That coin is going to be probably very valuable with how tempo-oriented this matchup ends up being in sort of that mid-game. He's got no activators for it, and not a real big guarantee to draw an activator. A pretty small chance,
too, right? It's like, you know, if you think you're unfavored in the game, that's one of the risks you might consider taking is you coin out a Devilsaur Egg in anticipation of drawing a Death Rattle activation.
But with the slow start from Islandcat, I think it's wise to kind of wait and hold on to the coin to try and be able to push out one of these 5 drops a little bit faster. I think maybe that's why he decided to hold on to it and try and get a little bit better odds.
See, Islandcat here concerned about a coin flanking strike as well, and honestly, he just doesn't have a way to play around that effectively. The timing of flanking strike is almost certainly going to be strong for Renmen at any point. And Renmen feigning a coin play dead here and just taking his time instead. That is a really unique play. And honestly, if you had a play dead, you would have just used it here.
Yes.
So I think that Islandcat can actually get like a stronger read on the type of hand from Renmen, especially with the poke of the damage here. Like now, you're starting to realize Renmen's hand is quite weak and quite vulnerable to aggression. I think he's going to hide this behind a Tar Creeper now.
Yeah, Renmen has shown multiple times on stream when we see him throughout the playoffs that he's not afraid to go for these little mind games. I mean, I think the shades are even a good indication. Playing it kind of like poker, where you're trying to, you know, make bluffs and force your opponent to try and have to think about more things than just what they're doing for their game plan.
Yeah,
so even if Islandcat thinks, oh, what do you use play dead? Well, it's the coin also. Does that ever change his plan? Even if it doesn't, it kind of forces him to think about it.
Yeah, the other thing too is there's no hunter's mark there. Like, that's the thing about, bluff style of plays in Hearthstone, is you have to think about the information that you're trying to send, and then the information that you actually send as well. And I think the information that Renmen actually sends here is that my hand is weak, and I don't have a lot to do behind this, and that's why I think Islandcat is just utilizing all his mana to invest proactively into board position. He knows that Renmen is vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
These are plays you would likely make anyway, but it gives you a lot of confidence, and it helps direct what the future plays from Renmen mean in that spot. Not every player is going to make those reads, and they're not always going to make them accurately, but I think its opportunity is the important part.
Yeah. Very true. Renmen has Giggling Inventor in hand, but knowing that 2 Blood Knights exist in the Odd Rogue from Islandcat could be a big deterrent for playing that card if you can get heavily punished on the backswing.
This is the turn to play the Grizzly, because Islandcat will not have access to Vile Spine Slayer for one more turn. You're going to likely see the Giggling Inventor follow that up, and then a way to compound that issue. But here, I mean, this is such a brutal spot for Renmen, where Witchwood Grizzly gets picked off because of the proactive poison. And just going to be under threat for a long time.
Yep.
That is a really interesting draw, though. I think that draw could be quite keyed for Renmen to get back into this game. He's going to have to hide behind, like, Giggling Inventor, hide behind, Ziliax for quite some time, and hope that he can find a recovery. And right now, the major goal is get to a safe Katarina turn. So he's chipped away at the Vicious Fledgling just enough. Islandcat he's still just got some strong plays going on, though.
Yeah, and
deep extension into the board.
He can also push face with Vicious Fledgling this turn. With Hench Clan Thug plus SI7 Agent, he's got 4 attacks to push through all of these Annoyatrons, and then search for Wind Fury plus stealth plus health plus anything really at this point.
Health is like a really big buff right now, as well as Divine Shield, because going right into turn 6, you're going to want to be protected from Rexar. And so this buff right here for Islandcat is super important. There's the Wind Fury, so damage now pouring in. And nothing to actually protect the Fledgling from AoE. So if Renmen draws exactly Deathstalker Rexar, I think that's the only opportunity for him to really get back into this game. He just fell too far behind.
Living Spores is, the best way. So on the backswing of this, you would have 3, 5, plus 7, 12.
It's still just so much damage pouring in because the Hench Clan Thug still lives, and Islandcat gets the 2 1/1s from that Death Rattle. So even with Rexar, still going to need further help to be able to stay into this game. The Tar Creeper has just done a magnificent job of protecting this Vicious Fledgling.
Yeah. But this is really the only way he can come back. He's got Ziliax to try and stabilize as well, potentially Spider Bomb plus Terror Scale Stalker, but with small minions on the board, it's going to be tough for him to be able to do that. Still at least 12 damage pouring at him on the backswing of this, too.
I'm trying to think of what beast even gets him out of this on the...
For 5 mana?
Yeah, that's what I mean, for 5 mana. Like, it has to just be... I can't even think of anything. Like
Snow Flipper, Penguin, Witchwood Grizzly, I don't know.
Because I'm looking at Islandcat's hand. I mean, with the Vicious Fledgling, with the Vile Spine Slayer.
Any big taunt minion is just going to get stopped.
And he knows it. This is how I expect a lot of this match to go, is Renmen having to play from behind and hoping that Islandcat will stumble along the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't think of a single card that gets him out of that position for the zombies, but might as well see what's in the box anyway. Islandcat takes game 1. Absolutely not. Being real is like getting a goldfish.
You get to play Hearthstone, then study those goldfish.
Pretty sure that analogy can just be used for everything.
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
That's right. Philosophy that I live by. I see a twig.
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
You know what else I see? An ooze.
I'm waiting to see what that second card is.
The interesting thing about that, though, is ooze can't be played until later on in the game, though.
Well, you still need it.
You still need it, but it's taking up a space.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. You know, like I said, I think that Malygos Druid is the one deck that Renmen can really beat down out of Islandcat's lineup. And when I say beat down, what I mean is that's the deck that he's going to have to probably pick up 2 wins against if he's going to win this set.
Yeah.
And so considering that, keeping the ooze early on, I think, is a major benefit. It really cuts into the power of Islandcat's one-turn kill potential from Malygos. And if he can apply some pressure, maybe he can force Islandcat to use some of those burn tools early on, and then even less of the impact more so. And that's really one of the goals for Renmen, is just keep applying so much pressure that Islandcat is in fear of a big cube play that'll wipe him out of the game. So hopefully he gets to force some of the tools from him and get to a point where Islandcat just does not have the one-turn kill potential in order to win, and then just lean on the Rexar button to finish him off.
Yeah. Yeah. And Twig is good, but its strength really lies in when you can ramp up alongside it. Try and get accelerate the game as much as you can, and Islandcat's just whiffing on ramp. No wild growth, no nourish.
That's what happens when you keep Twig in your hand sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the ramp. You know, I think Druid obviously runs a lot better when it has ramp. I don't think it needs ramp to win, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's really the thing, is when you don't have those ideal starting hands, and when you have something that's average or below average, you know, being able to have a favorable outcome is really one of the things that determines who are the best players.
Yeah.
You're not always going to get the best starting hand, but sometimes you win anyway. It's about resource partitioning, it's about outplanning your opponent and capitalizing on their slow turns. Renmen right now has had a pretty good start. He's found Deathstalker Rexar, and he found a Kaliseth. So it's a lot about Islandcat being able to get past these moments. Turn 4 Wild Growth, to me, I mean, this looks almost as good as Turn 2 Wild Growth at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really under any pressure, so it really does. We've got to keep track of what was discarded from the tracking. He had a Witchwood Grizzly, Play Dead.
Play Dead's a big one.
Flanking Strike as well, and a Terror Scale Stalker.
Yeah, but really,
so some of his Death Rattle activators are gone from the pool, as well as one of the larger beasts.
It's the Play Dead that's really the thing. You know, the main beast that Renmen wants is King Crush from the list.
He's actually got no more beasts left in his deck.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, with the King Crush and the Witchwood Grizzly drawn, and then one Witchwood Grizzly tracked over. He's got no Charged Devil Sword, so this Katharina is actually just an 8-mana 7/7.
Yeah, and that cube play really quickly. Renmen just wants to get the pressure rolling. You know, it's not as simple as you have Rexar, you play Rexar. You want Rexar to come down once you have exhausted some of your opponent's resources. Once they've shown that sign of weakness, or, you know, you desperately need 5 extra health, that's when Rexar operates in this particular matchup.
Yeah.
It's more of a support tool, but a very key support tool. And after Islandcat attacks this turn, Renmen's pretty much slated for Ooze. But the problem is it's ramping Islandcat 2 mana right now. So, you know, I think there is some risk associated with the Ooze, whether you choose to hold it for a turn and maybe not ramp your opponent, or ramping your opponent too. Both of those things are something that Renmen does not want to do.
Yeah, there's some interesting things you can do with Twig here. You can go for Poisonous Spiders, because if your opponent plays Deathstalker Rexar, they're not oozing. So you get full value from the Twig.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think you play Poisonous Spiders, because you get blown out by Rexar, especially after 2 trackings.
Well, look at the two-pronged attack that Islandcat makes here. Either the Poisonous Spiders are going to get value, or Renmen has to Deathstalker Rexar, which means he can't pop the Twig.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said.
but you said it in a weird roundabout way.
Yeah, that's what I always do. You should be used to it by now.
Forward, man. It's pretty important.
Twig, ooze, Deathstalker Rexar, Poison Spiders. That's straightforward enough for you?
More than what you said, yeah. That was weird. You're weird.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Islandcat doesn't really have a way to take advantage of the Twig, though, so I think Renmen makes the right call here on the Rexar.
Well, he can Dream Petal Florist, Spellstone, then pop Twig.
Just hope that you rip the right card from.
I mean, hope that you
ultimate.
rip any minion, because look, the minions left in his deck are.
Alex, don't really care that much about that. Malagos is the one you want to hit.
Yeah.
No, he's got a mind control tech in here.
And a Floob.
I mean, this gets a lot of work done. I think he needs to do this in order to, stay alive.
It also just clears the board, so that's the big thing here. And if he does hit an impactful minion with Dream Petal Florist.
Look, I'm not saying he's not capitalizing on it, but I don't think it's to the full potential. And Flabidinous Flute, when it transforms, it will lose that cost modification as well. So it will go back to 4 mana afterwards.
Yeah, so the only benefit it has is if you feel like playing a 0 mana 3/4 for tempo.
Yep, and so now Twig is gone and Dream Petal Florist is gone. So Renmen, he doesn't really have a way to know that Islandcat does not have Malagos in hand. But if he was able to readily identify that, he would know that this game is really close to being over simply because Islandcat's resources have been so greatly exhausted at this point.
Yep.
And that's the benefit of the pressure. You have to have the pressure or this plan cannot work. So now it looks like Islandcat needs to stave off the board pressure. Currently, he needs to have Renmen fail to find significant beasts from Deathstalker Rexar. He needs to find a turn to play Malagos. Then he needs to find a turn to use the flooped Malagos to try to deliver lethal pressure. Mind control tech, pretty much fails here.
Death is eternal. My turn is not.
And this is looking pretty ugly for Islandcat.
Yeah, I'd say so. Kind of has to hold on to these Moonfires just because otherwise I don't think he'd just have enough damage to end the game. With Twig gone, his maximum damage potential is limited unless he sticks Malagos and can flip it the turn after.
Having that egg is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Spreading Plague would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now with the Mossy Harbor, with its purpose to counter Spreading Plague, if he has to do it from a fairly neutral standpoint, it just means Islandcat gets a 5/5. So.
Yeah.
Not relevant right now, but maybe down the road. For Renmen, though, it's looking like he's got so much time and just enough board pressure that it almost doesn't matter, I think, what beast he gets off Rexar. I think just stuff to play is going to be enough.
Big stuff to play. Threatening stuff to play.
So, the question here is, do you want to take the cheaper beast or do you want to take the nesting rock and start playing some, big ploppy minions? And the thing about it is, this turn, I think that the big Zombies is better. In the future turns, however, his hand is already quite heavy, and I expect him to go more in a cost-efficient manner just to try to get continuous board development turn after turn. Looking at the way this game is going right now, the one way I think that Islandcat can get into this is maybe in a fatigue state. He's got 2 naturalizes. Renmen has tracked twice. So it's a lot of cards that have been burned from Renmen's deck. Maybe Islandcat can find something there, but the hand's so bad for him right now that I think he's got to start digging. Yeah,
when every card that you can play in your hand that's not burn damage that you need to end the game is draw cards, it becomes hard, especially since he's drawn a lot of cards with Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah. And here, I was just about to talk about these branching paths. I actually don't like these being used for card draw right now. And the major reason why is because, his life total is a finite resource. And yes, he does need to find something that makes a difference in this game. But every card he draws with a branching pass is effectively costing him 6 health right now.
Or it could also be costing him damage, because one of the ways that you can win this matchup outside of using Twig, if you start running out of damage and are pressured enough to where you can't just play Malagos and set up a 2-turn lethal.
Spreading Plague and Branching Pass.
Spreading Plague plus Branching Pass is a way to get that extra damage in that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Protect you from Mossy Harbor sometimes. Now, granted, it means that Renmen has to have a big board. And if Renmen has a big board, it means that, the minions are big as well. So I think it is tough, but I feel like I would have rather seen armor on these Branching Paths and use the armor to try to buy him time. You know, I think that while fatigue is a nigh impossibility for him at this stage, that it might be the best chance he's got, because right now I'm not seeing him having time to be able to play Malagos, play the Floop, and then burn out Renmen. Renmen's still at 28.
Yeah, fatigue is very close at the moment. That ultimate infestation probably will never be able to be used unless it's to end the game with the last bit of damage push. So 8 cards for Islandcat, 9 cards for Renmen.
And for Renmen, I think I'd like to see him just play the Katarina here. He doesn't want to give away that he has King Crush in hand, and since it won't pull a beast from the deck, that's the information it will give Islandcat right now.
Pretty weak turn, all things considered, though, for Renmen.
Trying to figure out a way to kill this egg, maybe, and get something going, but he's just been playing cleanup work for like the rest of the game, and I think it's going to get out of hand.
A tangled web.
Yikes. You know, and then you look at that and you're like, man, I wish I had that second branching path right now.
Yeah.
Just looking at the players too, it looks like Islandcat is, you know, a little bit more under pressure than Renmen is. And
I mean, he's going to be staring at a 3-8, 2 5-5s, and a 3-3 at the end of this turn, with probably an empty board, because I imagine Renman's going to use one of these Hunter's Marks.
No, you can afford to use the first one once you have found the second. You just need a way to kill Malagos. And wise to use the ooze to do it.
Play around the second mind control tech.
And also, it also allows him to keep hold of his candle shot, so when Malagos comes down, if his board gets cleared, he still has a way to kill it.
Actually, Islandcat only has one mind control tech in the list naturally. There is the flute mind control tech, so I guess there's some merit for that. But if he uses the flute, it's hard for him to win. I
think it's for if your board gets cleared. They play Malagos, they Moonfire your 2 5-5s, and then they blow up your other thing. You know, like you're not gonna have anything left.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have a way to kill the second Hunter's Mark. I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
It's later down the road, but you know that possibility is something that Renmen really wants to avoid right now. And Islandcat finds Alexstrasza, which I think gives him a reasonable chance to push, but you know, every single Build-A-Beast has an opportunity to find lifesteal as well.
Yep.
So eventually that starts adding up. So now Malagos is, you know, becoming quite threatening, I'd say. You have to play the Spider Bomb out, and so this is going to give Islandcat an opportunity to maybe take out these Spider Bombs before that Malagos has to come down. So I think that there is a chance for Islandcat, but he's going to need some pretty ideal draws here, and that's one of them, I think.
Malagos still in bottom 5, though.
I think Islandcat can still get there, though. He's got a Starfall to back up the Spreading Plague. He's got Branching Paths. Either going to buy him damage on the taunts, or it's going to buy him armor for some time. I could see it happening here. If he's been hand tracking well, too, he knows Renmen can't have a lifesteal minion. This is doable.
A tangled web.
You know, if Islandcat just had a little less hand size, he'd actually be able to use Ultimate Infestation and find that Malagos. He would go into fatigue right away. Oh, he's playing for the Malagos draw.
Wow.
He's playing for the top deck Malagos.
And he's going to gain armor to go outside of lethal, but double Moonfire in hand.
I don't know if he's going to gain some armor. Does he draw a card here?
8.
I think that drawing a card there might have had a lot of merit, but so he's got Spreading Plague to buy him time.
He would have died just to King Crush if he hadn't gained the armor twice.
There you go.
Because it would have been 21 damage on board, he would have been at 20.
I mean, but he's got a top deck Malagos in this spot, right?
Yeah, so it's a 1 and 5. He can maybe have Spreading Plague for one more, but that gives him 2 opportunities to draw lifesteal. None of those allow him to gain health initially. No lifesteal at all, so...
Take Cave Hydra, maybe? If you took Cave Hydra with the Poisonous, that is, you know, that takes out the Spreading Plague as an obstacle.
Yes.
Did not.
Cave Hydra just... Maybe he just wants to push max amount of damage. But Malagos off the top.
I don't know about this Silverback Patriarch. That's more Spreading Plague fodder. And for Islandcat, that's going to mean more time. And now Islandcat's actually just getting in a position where, like, you know, another hero power sets Renmen at 9. If he can get in, like, 2 hero powers, he could kill him, too.
Yeah, but he needs the Spreading Plague to protect, and then he can't get through the Silverback Patriarch at the same time as Spreading Plague.
I see what's happening with Renmen here. He actually, I think, has Islandcat checked here. I don't know if the Spider Bomb is a 3-3 or a 2-2. But if he sets the Spider Bomb magnetic onto the other Spider Bomb, he has play dead to kill 2 opposing minions right now.
Oh, yeah, that's
so there's
right.
a possibility Islandcat's supposed to Wrath that 3-2 first to mitigate what Renmen can actually do on the counter push.
Yeah, because the magnetic, regardless, would allow him to kill off 1, kill off 2.
Pulls the Direwolf, armors up.
He could flanking strike as well. So oh, well.
Okay, well,
that's enough anyway.
Yeah, sometimes.
Wait.
It's not lethal damage, though. Is it? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I count 15 damage? Yeah, I think that's enough. You Mossy Harbor. You have 8, 9, 10, 11 left on board. 12 with the Candle Shot. 13, 14, 15 with the Spider Bomb, and that's 10 mana.
With the magnetic, yeah.
Wow. Renmen just barely going to get out of this one. Second Mossy Harbor in his Hunter deck. You could see how much he's teched for slower decks in this one. He has a lot of punishers for slower things, and is going to pick up game number 2. And again, I think that the Malagos deck from Islandcat is the one that Renmen has to do work against.
Yeah. I really like the recognition of Islandcat, though, to go for the Malagos out for the win.
Cost you the game.
And ultimately, it's not guaranteed that it would have changed the outcome, because it would have been a resource, and maybe the board position would have been different, forced different reactions out of Renmen. But those are things you have to look at in Hearthstone. You have to look at what could you have done differently, and you know, that's what separates the great players from the good players, is the fact that they'll go back and watch that match and say, would that have changed things?
Yeah, I spoke to Akumaker this morning. He kind of stepped back into the room and was like, hey, what's going on? And he said he went back and watched his matches yesterday, and on stage, thought he played pretty okay, and he watched him and went, ooh, that was not okay.
Yeah. And it can be tough sometimes to go back and watch your own matches, because it can be hard to recognize your mistakes, but it's a skill to have. And also the ability to see whether or not it was a mistake. Maybe Islandcat will go back and watch and say, I agree with the plays that I made.
So 2 things going on in this matchup. Number 1 is, you know, you want that Mountain Giant, so that was going to be the first point I make. But the second one is that Islandcat, again, has Twig, and Renmen does not have a copy of Weapon Destruction inside of his Cube Warlock deck. It is quite teched for a more heavy play scenario with 2 Mountain Giants, the Prince Taldaram, Spirit Singer Umbra, Faceless Manipulator. A lot of stuff in here that's dedicated to be able to have heavy-handed late-game turns. So if he's able to get through the early game in a relatively safe position with some pressure on the Islandcat, big benefit for him.
Yeah.
If he can't do that, that means this Twig is going to be a massive threat throughout this game.
Yes. Now he's going to be able to pile on some pressure, as Islandcat has not picked up either of these naturalizes yet. You can see some of the key cards there. Basically standard Q block stuff. Ziliax has just been an inclusion to try and give you a little bit of a defensive tool on turn 5, which is oftentimes the dead zone for Q block, at least nowadays. And it used to be the Possess Lackey turn, but you got to buy time to 6. You play Mountain Giant on 4. What do you do on 5? Doomguard from hand? No. How about a Ziliax to try and protect things?
Well, so no Naturalize picked up, and not quite the damage to finish off this Mountain Giant. So step 1 for Renmen is complete. It's assemble a reasonable threat. The second thing, however, here is what does he follow this up with? Because he's got a number of plays here that are quite interesting.
Trade over Carnivorous Cube, the Mountain Giant. Prince Taldaram, the Cube. Woo.
All you have to do is find a way to actually kill your cube after that, or the Prince Talleyrand.
Yeah.
And you're in pretty good shape. And Islandcat recognizes that he is in dire straits if he can't get anything. And there's a Dark Pact for Renmen. And he's about to run away with this game. Double Mountain Giant, no answer from Islandcat. And so now the question for Renmen is, do I wait? And the answer to him is yes, because this is about to be some massive pickup. You don't have to have the explosivity right away. You just have to have it.
No, I mean, if there's no way for Islandcat to just deal with this cube right off the bat.
No silence, no transforms.
Yeah, if he naturalizes it, sure, give me 2 Mountain Giants. I don't care. The biggest punish would be if he blew up the cube and then double naturalize the 2 Mountain Giants. That would be the punish.
Yeah, well, the counter plan here is to go, okay, he slowed down his pressure him back.
Yeah.
But Renmen's got a lot of ways in hand to fend that off right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Islandcat's getting very aggressive here.
I mean, he's got, in 2 turns, he has a near guaranteed lethal. He's got 22 damage from hand in 2 turns. With Break the Twig, or Malagos, Double Moonfire, Break the Twig, Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, Renmen's going to have to do something to really start pressuring Islandcat.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
Save the Tal'Daram since it's the cheaper option. Pair of big boys. You know, I'm looking at this and I wonder if Islandcat had kept that Floop in hand, how much easier this game might have been. But Alex Straza drawn, pretty major deal. And you know, Renmen's only presenting 20 damage here. I say only, but Islandcat is looking at being able to kill Renmen next turn.
Yep. And I don't think there's a single counter.
What?
Honestly.
Second Dark Pact, perhaps?
Doesn't even get him up. He's got 22 damage.
Well,
if he can hit phase, he's got 23 damage.
So how would he get out of that then?
There's no way.
Tal'Daram brings him to 20 with the Ziliax.
Not enough. Wait, if that's the only taunt in the way, he has to twig into the taunt.
Wow, that's a big deal.
So that actually might take him 1 out of range.
And he's got 4 Mountain Giants counter pressuring.
It will take him 1 out of range.
Wow, that is a brilliant maneuver. Wow, that is so, that's the perfect reason. Well, does that change anything? So, no, that's less damage to Ultimate Infestation, but can he clear the board position, perhaps?
Clear the board position this turn?
Does he need to clear out the whole thing, or does he just need to clear out some of it? That's another question, too. You're still going to have a Malagos online after this, you know?
It doesn't even clear up the whole board position. It doesn't touch the Mountain Giants enough. It's only 6 damage to the Mountain Giants.
I'm looking at using a Wrath, using a Moonfire to kill Mountain Giants. Like, he's got to do something. He's just going to die otherwise.
Yeah.
I think that Islandcat set this up really well. Renmen countered this really well, too. I mean, the recognition to know that, you know, that 22 damage burst was the key, and that Ziliax having taunt was the counter move. Spreading Plague can buy time as well.
Hide the Malagos behind the Spreading Plague.
And you can't Hero Power and wipe out the Ziliax because the Twig is already attacked.
Nah, he's dead.
Islandcat is, I mean, that looked like a panic to me.
Yeah, Spirit Singer Umbra plus Defile I think is just enough because he's got 1, 2, 3,
4, 5, yeah.
4, 5, and the Mountain Giants will live and he'll be able to push through.
What a game.
1 health off. Being able to Prince Tal'Daram Ziliax put him 1 health off from the 22 damage burst because he didn't have any way to kill off the Ziliax without attacking the Twig in and giving the additional lifesteal.
For how much was going on this game, it's like crazy to see how quickly these players were playing as well. This was just insane. Like, so well played from Renmen's side, so well played from Islandcat's side, honestly, too. And it was the pressure that really ended up being the big difference. So I look at the middle stage of the game and wonder if Renmen had cubed and Dark Pacted right away, where the percentage comes from. Because, you know, it's really hard to just calculate that sort of stuff. it's going to be, you know, wildly inaccurate.
The biggest upset
there's no control
in the history of Hearthstone. Fireman is the 2014 Hearthstone World Champion. That's going to be on an episode of Meme History, by the way, if you don't understand.
That's just a meme only internally, though. It's just what you guys meme me about.
Yeah. Ooh. That's a Prince Kelseth.
Indeed it is. And I think that Islandcat doesn't necessarily need Kelseth in order to win this matchup, but, you know, you'll take every percentage you can get, especially if you're behind at all. Renmen has Sonya and has Southsea Deckhand early on. So maybe some defensive tools can be found and he can find a way to get in this game really quickly and stave off the pressure. But stave off the pressure is the main goal for Renmen. If he can't do that, he's just going to get beat down. Yeah,
Shadow Step, I think, is the draw that he's looking for, to be able to Shadow Step that Sonya back and have a big swing turn onto the board. But right now, he's just kind of taking a beating for a bunch of tutus.
Islandcat yet to have damaged himself. Renmen finds another Southsea Deckhand. That seems like a pretty big deal.
There once was a man from Gilnet.
So now Islandcat is going to be faced with the choice of whether or not you trade into minions. In my opinion, no. I think you should be going face, bringing the beat down, and trying to end this game as quickly as possible. Renmen showed coin already, which means that Vanish is harder to play in this situation. You've got Leroy, you've got Fungalmancer, you've got Solarium, you've got plenty of ways to dig. I think that 3-2 means close to absolutely nothing in this spot, and I think Islandcat just threw away 2 damage.
We'll see if a few turns down the road, he looks at Renmen's life total and realizes that he's 2 points off of lethal.
It's very unlikely, I'd say, but it's not only 2 damage this turn, it's a 2 damage attack next turn. So he would lose his Voidwalker, but he'd gain that 2 damage attack afterwards.
Yeah, but I mean, the Southsea Deckhand would have killed off one of these 3-2s.
It is a big snowball effect. That's the nature of Hearthstone. You know, every single decision has that ripple effect throughout the rest of the game. So, you know, it's hard to go back and look and say definitively. Just ideas. So now, Renmen's got a different plan in mind with the Sonya, and it's looking like it's going to be the little lifesteal guy.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Islandcat, it is full steam ahead at this point. I think if he trades over this Novice Engineer, that's just a mistake.
If he doesn't, he's got Soul Infusion plus Leroy. It won't end the game unless one other minion sticks and there's no taunts in the way. He has 7 damage on the board. Fungalmancer at 4, that brings him down to 11. Soul Infusion on the Leroy. Wait, no, the Leroy has the Kelseth buff, so it actually would. So it'd be exactly 9.
7. It's at 9 right now. If he Soul Infusions it.
Yeah. So he actually just, if he just goes all face here, he sets up for a lethal almost no matter what, because he has 4 attacks on the board.
Now, that being said, Renmen is running the Wax Elemental version of this.
Yeah.
So a lot of defensive utility that's in the deck. That trade is spooky to me. That's a lot of damage to put into a Novice Engineer. If Renmen's going to complete this quest with Novice Engineer right now, they're just going to die to residual damage from having any amount of board presence.
It is very difficult to justify that 4 damage.
I think that's, you know, 2 missed attacks in this game. I used to watch players play Odd Paladin against Quest Rogue, and I always wondered how they beat it. You know, I've struggled so much on Odd Paladin basically throughout its existence. I would watch, they would just never trade a minion. Until that minion was vital, never traded it. Double Soul Infusion.
On to Leroy.
It's that 2-1 that's really scary here, though. The Giggling Inventor gets bounced back to hand via, you know, the Vanish that's somewhat slated next turn, in Islandcat's eyes anyway. Or it gets bounced from a Shadow Step, or it gets bounced from a Sonya, or whatever have you. The Giggling Inventors are just going to take over at that point. Islandcat's going to need to get board presence.
Yeah, this one's... not over by any means. With Sonya in hand, a lot of crazy stuff can happen.
Almost out of time.
I wonder if Islandcat's ever... I mean, can you ever, like, Leroy down the Giggling Inventor here? I think that's too big of an invest. If he could see Renmen's hand, he probably would.
That's an 11 attack Leroy, though.
Oh, my gosh.
And he can play the Giggling Inventor, and then he can Shadow Step the Giggling Inventor, be able to play another one the following turn. And he has defensive tools with Wax Elemental and Glacial Shard.
Do you Shadow Step the Giggling Inventor, or do you Shadow Step the Sonya? I don't really know. I think that there's a lot of options here for Renmen now, and Islandcat may have missed the boat on the lethal opportunity because Renmen's able to substantiate defense. I don't think Islandcat gets back into this.
It's going to be tough. Despicable Dreadlords are in the deck for Islandcat.
He needs a Soulfire for the Sonya.
Yeah, he does. He needs Soulfire and
this all would have been prevented if Islandcat had Leroy the Giggling Inventor. None of this would have happened.
Oh, he Shadow Steps the Sonya.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a Lifesteal minion in hand, so 1-cost Sonya now.
True.
If Islandcat... Oh, there's the Soulfire! Just every single thing that Renmen's done has landed to this position. Islandcat had one opportunity to stop the Giggling Inventor. It was Leroy and attack it, which feels miserable.
I wonder.
But that could have been the way that he wins that game. Is by Leroying the Giggler.
It would have been Sonya plus the Lifesteal minion to try to clean up the board. So he still might not have gotten out of it.
Yeah, but that's a pretty big initial mana investment, I guess. So maybe he wouldn't be able to clear up the whole board since it was Kel'Seth buffed, and he would have had less finishing damage with the Leroy Jenkins, but...
I'm curious how the damage pans out if Islandcat pushes space both times he had traded. Because he is going to lose more board presence in that instance.
He lost 6 damage.
But how much board presence would he have lost? So, you know, would he still have
He would have lost a lot because that the South Sea deckhands would have never have been used to trade off the Light Warden or the Void Walker because he would have had it anyway.
Now he Soulfires the Giggling Inventor. And I don't think that Islandcat gets back into this. He needed probably the Despicable Dreadlord that turn.
Come, try your luck.
Bouncer in hand as well. And that is the nightmare for Islandcat. A 1-attack Lifesteal minion with Rush.
Also, just the Sonya's still there with no way to deal with it. So his only way to push through by going through these Annoyotrons and this Wax Elemental just gives him more Annoyotrons and more Wax Elementals.
And now Renmen, not going to save the Sonya, says, I don't need it at this point. I need to complete this quest. I don't disagree.
Yeah, and I think he's going to hold on to the last Vicious Scale Hide to make sure he gets maximum lifesteal value. He can play the Glacial Shard to freeze one of these minions. This game's locked.
I can't think of how Islandcat could possibly win at this point.
He's even got the prep. So he can Zola another Vicious Scale Hide out next turn. Even with Kel'Seth, even with a huge board, Renmen was able to find the lines. Still got a lot of 4/4s, but Renmen also about to have a lot of 4/4s.
This board was empty, maybe, but it's not. It's quite full.
Yep.
You have to find aggressive pressure, and you have to be able to follow up. Islandcat didn't have that this game. Renmen 3-1 over Islandcat. Going to move on to the winner's match. One match away from making it to that quarterfinal spot. And Islandcat going to move to the lower bracket. One more loss and he's done.
And maybe not the big...
Right about now.